Hello, in this video I am going to explain how to answer the questions in the Edexcel GCSE Maths Paper 1 from November 2021, the Foundation tier. The purpose of this video is for your learning and understanding, not just the answers. There are of course other videos out there. Write 3/10 as a percentage. Remember, percentage is out of 100, so we need to rewrite 3/10 as a fraction where the denominator is 100. To go from 10 to 100, we need to multiply by 10. That means we must do the same to the numerator, and that gives us 30/100. The question though does say percentage, so we need to leave it as 30%. And for 1 mark, you can just write the answer. Write the following numbers in order of size. Start with the smallest number. When ordering positive and negative numbers, I like to draw out a number line. Now I'm going to place all the numbers from the list. I can see that 8 is over here, -7 is over here, -10 over here, 1 is over here, 0 is over here, and -2 is over here. Now I can clearly see the correct order. So my order should be -10, -7, -2, 0, 1, and then 8. For having them all in the correct order, I would get my 1 mark. Write 9/100 as a decimal. Over 100 means 9 divided by 100. I am going to rewrite that as 09.0. The value is still the same. Because there are 2 zeros, I am going to move the decimal point twice. So now my answer is 0.09, and for 1 mark we only need to write the answer. Write 327 to the nearest 10. Remember the place value headings. We have units, tens, and hundreds. Because we are rounding to the nearest tens, we draw the wall after the tens. Underline the 7. That 7 is above 5, so we need to round it up. The answer then becomes 330. For 1 mark, we just need to write 330. Write down the value of 7 squared. 7 squared means 7 multiplied by 7. It says the value, so we need to say 49 as our answer. And that is all we need to write for 1 mark. Write down the mathematical name of this quadrilateral. As there is only 1 pair of parallel lines, this shape is called trapezium. And that is all we need to write for 1 mark. Write down the mathematical name of this 3D shape. This shape is called cylinder. And for 1 mark, we just need to write the word cylinder. 42 pounds is shared equally between 3 friends. How much does each friend get? When sharing equally, that means we need to do 42 pounds divided by 3. For having written this out, we would get 1 mark. To work this out, we can use the bus stop method. 4 divided by 3 is 1, remainder 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. That means for the final mark, the answer is 14 pounds. And now we have 2 marks. Grace recorded the eye colour of each of the students in her class. The frequency table below shows her results. Grace then drew the bar chart below for this information. Write down one thing that is wrong with this bar chart. If we look at the bar for brown, it goes as high as 16. However, the frequency table says 15. So we can say bar height for brown is 16, but table says 15. Remember to always use figures in your answer. And now we have 1 mark. Danny buys 1 loaf of bread for £1.20, 1 bottle of milk for 70 pence, 2 packets of cheese for £2.30 each. Danny pays with a £10 note. He says, I should get £3.30 change. Is Danny correct? You must show how you get your answer. First, we need to work out Danny's total cost. So we need to do £1.20 for the bread, 0.70 for the milk. I have converted this into pounds. £2.30 for the cheese and another £2.30 because he buys 2 packets. When we add all of that up, we get 0 over here, 15 over here. Don't forget the decimal point. And then we get 6. That means he has spent £6.50 in total. Now we have 1 mark. Step 2, we need to work out Danny's change. If he pays with a £10 note, he has paid £10. We need to do £10 subtract £6.50. 0 take away 0 is 0. We need to cross out this 10, make it a 9, carry over the 1. So 10 subtract 5 is 5 again. Don't forget the decimal point. 9 subtract 6 is 3. And now we have our second mark. For step 3, we can say he is wrong. Remember to always justify your answer. £3.50 is not the same as £3.30. And now we have our third mark. Rachel records the temperature in her garden at noon each day. On Monday, the temperature was 5 degrees Celsius. On Tuesday, the temperature was 10 degrees less than the temperature on Monday. On Wednesday, the temperature was 3 degrees greater than the temperature on Tuesday. Find the difference between the temperature on Monday and the temperature on Wednesday. You must show all your working. Step 1, we first need the temperature on Tuesday. So we need to start with the 5 degrees and then subtract 10 degrees because it said the words 10 degrees less than. We end up with -5. Step 2, we need to work out the temperature on Wednesday. Tuesday's temperature was -5 and it says it was 3 degrees greater than, so we need to add on 3. We end up with -2. For all of this, we now have 1 mark. Step 3, we need to work out the difference. So we need Monday's temperature, which was 5 degrees, subtract Wednesday's temperature, which is -2. For this, you can use a number line if you want to, and the answer ends up being 7. And now we have our second mark. The pictogram shows information about the number of video games sold in a shop on Monday, on Tuesday, and on Wednesday. Notice in the key, each box represents 8 video games. That means each little box must represent 2. Part A, it says how many video games were sold on Monday. We have 2 of those boxes, so we have 8, add 8, which is 16. And for 1 mark in part A, all we need to write is 16. Then the question says, more video games were sold on Tuesday than on Wednesday. Part B, how many more? First, we need to work out how many were sold on Tuesday. We have 8, add 8, and now we have 3 of those little boxes, so it's add 6. That gives us 22. On Wednesday, we have 8, add 1 of those small boxes, which is 2, and that gives us 10. Now we have 1 mark. Then, because we need to work out the difference, we need to do 22 subtract 10, and we get 12. And for part B, that is our second mark. Then the question says, on Thursday and Friday, a total of 32 video games was sold in the shop. A quarter of these 32 video games was sold in the shop on Thursday. Part C, complete the pictogram for Thursday and Friday. I am going to start with Thursday. A quarter of 32 means 32 divided by 4. And now we have 1 mark. That gives us 8. To represent 8, we need to draw a complete 2 by 2 box. And now we have a second mark. For Friday, we need to do 32 subtract 8, which is 24. To work out how many boxes we need for 24, we need to do 24 divided by 8, and we get 3. So we need to draw 3 complete 2 by 2 boxes. And that is our third mark for part C. There are 2 drama groups in a school. In one group, there are 36 boys and 48 girls. In the other group, 3/7 of the students are boys and the rest of the students are girls. Anne says the ratio of the number of boys to the number of girls is the same for both groups. Is Anne correct? You must show how you get your answer. I'm going to start with group 1. We have boys to girls. We know there are 36 boys and 48 girls. I am going to simplify this ratio. A common factor is 12. Divide both of them by 12 and we get 3 to 4. And now we have 1 mark. Moving on to group 2, we have boys to girls. This time 3/7 of the class are boys. If the rest are girls, we need to do 1 subtract 3/7. That is 4/7. So here, under girls, we can say 4/7. To simplify this ratio, we need to multiply by 7, and we get 3 to 4. And now we have a second mark. To answer the question, is Anne correct? We can say yes, and then justify it, because both ratios simplify to 3 to 4, and that is our third mark. A number sequence starts 1, 2, 4. Emma says that the next term is 7. Explain why Emma may be correct. For this, we can say the sequence goes +1, +2, so next we must do +3, which is 7. And for writing this sentence, we would get 1 mark. Here are the first 4 terms of the sequence of triangle numbers. find the 8th term. At the moment we have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms as mentioned. We need the 5th, then the 6th, then the 7th, and then finally the 8th. We need to find the term-to-term rule. We are doing add 2, then add 3, then add 4. The next must be add 5, and then add 6, and then add 7, and for the 8th term it must be add 8. For working out that the 5th term is 15, we now have our first mark. 15 add 6 is 21. 21 add 7 is 28. 28 add 8 is 36. For writing 36 as our final answer, we get our second mark. £3 kilograms of carrots costs £1.80. 2 kilograms of carrots and 5 kilograms of potatoes cost a total of £3.45. Work out the total cost of 4 kilograms of carrots and 2 kilograms of potatoes. You must show all your working. For step 1, I'm going to use the first line. 3 kilograms of carrots is equal to £1.80. To work out 1 kilogram of carrots, we need to divide by 3. That means 1 kilogram of carrots is £0.60. That is our first mark. Step 2, we can create an equation using the second line. 2 kilograms of carrots add 5 kilograms of potatoes is equal to £3.45. 2 kilograms of carrots is 2 multiplied by 0.60. Add 5p is equal to 3.45. We now have 1.20. Add 5p is equal to 3.45. To solve this, we have p multiplied by 5, add 1.20, which gives us 3.45. To go backwards, we need to subtract 1.20 and then divide by 5. I'm going to do that at the bottom over here. 3.45 subtract 1.20, that is 5, 2, and then 2. So that is £2.25. Now we need to divide that by 5. 2 divided by 5 is 0. 22 divided by 5 is 4. 25 divided by 5 is 5. That means P is equal to 0.45, and that is our second mark. For step 3, we need to create a third equation using the third line. So 4 kilograms of carrots add 2 kilograms of potatoes. Now we can substitute. So 4 multiplied by 0.60, add 2 multiplied by 0.45. That is our third mark. We end up with 2.40, add 0.90. That gives us 3.30. That means the total cost is £3.30. And that is our fourth mark. Expand the following. That means we need to do 2 multiplied by a, which is 2a, and then we need to do 2 multiplied by d. That gets us a positive 2d. We must have both terms for that 1 mark. Factorize the following. For factorizing, I like to use the upside down bus stop method. I need to think of a common factor of 6y squared and negative 5y. That is y. 6y squared divided by y is 6y. Negative 5y divided by y is negative 5. The only other common factor is 1. That means we can stop. The bracket is 6 y subtract 5. The outside of the bracket is the product of any terms on the left. In this case, it's just y. And for 1 mark, we just need to write this answer. Solve 4x subtract 7 equals 37. I like to use the flowchart method. Start with x. 4x means multiply by 4. Subtract 7 means subtract 7. And we end up with 37. To solve, we need to do the inverse. So we need to add 7 first and then divide by 4. For having all of this written out, we would get 1 mark. 37 add 7 is 44. 44 divided by 4 is 11. For having our final answer as x equals 11, we would get our second mark. ABCD is a kite. AB is equal to 4x subtract 2 centimeters. Jasper says that x could be 0.5. Explain why Jasper cannot be correct. AB is equal to 4x, so 4 multiplied by 0.5, subtract 2. 4 multiplied by 0.5 is the same as 4 multiplied by half, which is 2. 2 subtract 2 gives us 0. AB cannot equal 0. And now we have 1 mark. AD is equal to 3AB. The kite has a perimeter of 64 centimeters. Find the value of x. To start with, we need to work out AD. That is 3 lots of 4x subtract 2. And that gives us 12x subtract 6. Now we can create an equation. Because of the line of symmetry in a kite, we know that this length is equal to this length, and we know that this length is equal to this length. That means we have 2 lots of 4x subtract 2, add 2 lots of 12x subtract 6, and the perimeter is equal to 64. Now I have 1 mark. If we expand, we get 8x subtract 4, add 24x subtract 12. Again, it still equals 64. If we collect like terms, we have 8x over here, positive 24x over here. We have negative 4 and negative 12. We end up with 32x subtract 16 is equal to 64. Now I have a second mark. To help solve this equation, I am going to divide everything by 2. Now I have 16x subtract 8 is equal to 32. Now I'm actually going to divide again. I'm going to divide by 8. Remember, you always have to use a common factor. You can't use a number that will only work on the left-hand side, or a number that will only work on the right-hand side. We end up with 2x subtract 1 is equal to 4. Now I'm going to solve this using the flowchart method. We have x multiplied by 2 and then subtract 1. That gives us 4. If we go backwards, we need to add 1, which is 5, and then divide by 2. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. For writing x is equal to 2.5, we have our third mark. Heidi wants to make some biscuits using this recipe. Heidi thinks that she has the following. Assuming that these weights are correct, Work out the greatest number of biscuits Heidi can make. You must show all your working. I'm first going to start with the butter. She has grams and biscuits. 125 grams makes 12 biscuits. Heidi has 500 grams. To go from 125 to 500, we need to multiply by 4. Do the same to the biscuits. 12 multiplied by 4 is 48. And now we have 1 mark. Moving on to the flour. Again, we have grams and biscuits. 200 grams makes 12 biscuits. Heidi has 700 grams. For this one, to go from 200 to 700, it isn't the easiest, so I'm going to use a common factor of 200 and 700, which is 100. To go from 200 to 100, I can divide by 2, and then multiply by 7 to get to 700. Do the same on this side. Divide by 2 and we get 6. 6 multiplied by 7 is 42. And now we have a second mark. Now moving on to sugar. Again, grams and biscuits. 50 grams makes 12 biscuits. Heidi has 250 grams. To go from 50 to 250, we need to multiply by 5. Do the same on this side. 12 multiplied by 5 is 60. And now we have a third mark. The question said to work out the greatest number of biscuits. If we make 60, we do not have enough flour, enough butter, so it cannot be this one. If we make 48, we do not have enough flour. That means the greatest number of biscuits must be 42. And now we have our fourth mark. Heidi is wrong. She has more than 250 grams of sugar. Does this affect the greatest number of biscuits Heidi can make? Give a reason for your answer. We will say no, because she needs more flour to make more biscuits. And for writing all of this, we now have 1 mark. On the grid below, draw the graph of y equals 2x subtract 2 for values of x from -2 to 3. For this question, I am going to draw a table of values. I have x and y. For the x's, I know I have to go from -2 all the way up to 3. To work out the y coordinates, I need to do 2 multiplied by -2 subtract 2, and that's -6. And then 2 multiplied by -1 subtract 2, and that is -4. And then 2 multiplied by 0 subtract 2, and that is -2. And then y equals 2 multiplied by 1 subtract 2, which is 0. And you should notice a pattern. 2 multiplied by 2 subtract 2, and we get 2. And even if you didn't work it out, you should see that for 3, it is 4. And now we have 1 mark. Each one of these is a coordinate, and we need to plot all of them. -2, -6, -1, -4, 0, -2, 1, 0, 2, 2, and 3, 4. And now we have a second mark. Now we need to get out our ruler and join up all of these points. And now we have a third mark. Robin buys a watch for £80. He sells the watch for £56. Work out his percentage loss. For this question, we need to use the formula difference over original multiplied by 100. So for step 1, we need to work out the difference. We need to do 80 subtract 56. We end up with 24, and that is our first mark. For step 2, we can substitute into the formula. The difference is 24. The original is how much he bought it for, which is 80. And then that multiplied by 100. Now we have a second mark. To work this out without a calculator, we need to simplify this fraction. If I divide both the numerator and denominator by 8, I get 3 over 10 multiplied by 100. And now I can multiply both of them by 10 to make the denominator 100. That gives me 30 over 100 multiplied by 100. So the answer is 30%, and that is our third mark. Work out the following. For this question, I am going to draw a 3 by 2 grid and use the Chinese method. It's a 3 by 2 because it's a 3-digit number multiplied by a 2-digit number. Remember to cut each box diagonally. We are doing 3.67 multiplied by 4.2. For the top row, we need to do 3 multiplied by 4, which is 12, 6 multiplied by 4, which is 24, 7 multiplied by 4, which is 28. For the second row, we need to do 3 multiplied by 2, which is 6, so 0, 6. 6 multiplied by 2, which is 12. 7 multiplied by 2, which is 14. And now we have 1 mark. Then we need to add up diagonally, starting from the right. 4 add nothing is 4. 8 add 1 add 2 is 11, carry over the 1. 2 add 4 add 1 add 6 add 1 is 14, carry over the 1. 2 add 2 add 0 add 1 is 5. 1 add nothing is 1. And now we have a second mark. To work out where the decimal point goes, we need to highlight downwards from the decimal point above, highlight across from the decimal point on the right. They meet up at this diagonal line. That means the decimal point is over here. So our final answer is 15.414, and that is our third mark. Work out the following. First, I'm going to write it as a fraction. To make things easier, I want the denominator to be a whole number, so I will multiply it by 10, which means I have to do that to the numerator. This gives us 598.4 over 16. Now we have 1 mark. I do not know my 16 times tables, so I will try and simplify this, so I will divide by 2. The denominator is 8. For the numerator, I'm going to use bus stop. 5 divided by 2 is 2, remainder 1. 19 divided by 2 is 9, remainder 1. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Don't forget the decimal point. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our numerator is 299.2. Because I do know my 8 times tables, this time I'm going to use bus stop again, but this time it's 299.2 divided by 8. 2 divided by 8 is 0. 29 divided by 8 is 3. Remainder 5. 59 divided by 8 is 7. Remainder 3. 32 divided by 8 is 4. For having these digits, I now have my second mark, but remember the decimal point, which was over here. So the final answer is 37.4 for that third mark. The universal set is even numbers less than 19. Set A is 6, 12, and 18. Set B is 2, 6, 14, and 18. Complete the Venn diagram for this information. Before starting on the Venn diagram, I'm going to start by listing the numbers in the universal set. That is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. Now we can start to fill in the Venn diagram. Always start with the intersection, which is the overlap. What number is in both sets? 6. Cross it out from both sets and the universal set. Also 18. Again, cross it out from all sets. Now we have 1 mark. Now focus on the numbers that are only in set A. That is just 12. Again, cross it out from all sets. And now we have a second mark. For numbers that are only in set B, we have 2 and 14. Don't forget to cross it out from all sets. We also need to write in the numbers that are not in set A and not in set B. That is 4 and 8, 10, and 16. For having a correctly completed Venn diagram, we now have our third mark. Work out 4 and 1/5, subtract 2 and 2/3. Give your answer as a mixed number. To start with, we need to convert the mixed number into an improper fraction. So that's the whole number multiplied by the denominator, add the numerator. The denominator stays the same. We end up with 21/5. Do the same with 2 and 2/3. Whole number multiplied by denominator, add on numerator, and the denominator stays the same. We end up with 8/3. Now we can rewrite the question. It is 21/5, subtract 8/3. Now we have 1 mark. In order to subtract, we need to make sure the denominators are the same. A common multiple of 5 and 3 is 15. So we need to convert both fractions to make the denominators 15. 5 multiplied by 3 would get me 15. Do the same to the numerator. And now we have 63/15. For 3, we need to multiply by 5. Do the same to the numerator. And now we have 40/15. Now we have a second mark. 63/15 subtract 40/15 is 23/15. The question said to leave our answer as a mixed number. We need to work out how many 15s go into 23. That is 1. The remainder is 8, so we end up with 1 and 8/15. And that is our third mark. At the end of 2017, the value of Tamara's house was 220,000. The value of Raheem's house was 160,000. At the end of 2019, the value of Tamara's house had decreased by 20%. The value of Raheem's house had increased by 30%. At the end of 2019, whose house had the greater value? You must show how you get your answer. I am going to start with Tamara. Step 1, we need to work out 20% of the 220,000. That is 220,000 divided by 10 for 10% and then multiplied by 2. We end up with 22,000 multiplied by 2, which gives us 44,000. Now we have 1 mark. Step 2, It says that Tamara's house had decreased, so we need to do 220,000 subtract 44,000. I am using the column method because I do not have a calculator. We end up with 176,000. We now have a second mark. Moving on to Rahim. We need to work out 30% for Rahim. We need to do 160,000 divided by 10 for 10% and then multiplied by 3. We get 16,000 multiplied by 3, which is 48,000. It says that Rahim's house had increased, so we need to do 160,000 add the 48,000. Again, I am using the column method. We end up with 208,000. We now have a third mark. To finish off, we need to say Rahim's house had a greater value. And remember, we must always justify, because £208,000 is more than £176,000, and that would give us 4 marks. Rosie, Matilda and Ibrahim collect stickers. The number of stickers Rosie has to the number of stickers Matilda has to the number of stickers Ibrahim has is 4 to 7 to 15. Ibrahim has 24 more stickers than Matilda. Ibrahim has more stickers than Rosie. How many more? For step 1, I am going to rewrite the ratio. We have Rosie, Matilda and Ibrahim. That's 4 to 7 to 15. In the question, we are told that Ibrahim has 24 more stickers than Matilda. So just focusing on Matilda and Ibrahim for now. If we know that there's 24 more, we know the difference. The difference in parts between Matilda and Ibrahim is 8. The difference in stickers, though, is 24. To go from 8 to 24, we need to multiply by 3. We need to do that to all the parts. Now we have 1 mark. That means Rosie has 12 stickers, Matilda has 21 stickers, and Ibrahim has 45 stickers. We now have 2 marks. Step 2, we can work out how many more Ibrahim has compared to Rosie. So we're going to do Ibrahim subtract Rosie. That is 45 subtract 12. We end up with 33, and that is our third mark. The diagram shows a prism. The cross-section of the prism is a right-angled triangle. The base of the triangle has length 5 centimeters. The prism has length 25 centimeters. The prism has a volume 750 cubic centimeters. Work out the height of the prism. Let's start with what we know. So for step 1, let's start with the volume. Volume of a prism is cross-sectional area multiplied by length. In this case, that is 750 is equal to the cross-sectional area, which we do not know, multiplied by 25. To work out the cross-sectional area, we need to do the inverse, so 750 divided by 25. We end up with 30. Now we have 1 mark. Step 2, we can work with the cross-section area. The cross-section is a triangle. The formula for area of a triangle is base multiplied by height divided by 2. So we have 30 is equal to 5 multiplied by the height divided by 2. To solve that, I am going to use the flowchart method. We have h, we multiply that by 5, then we divide it by 2, and we get 30. To go backwards, we need to do the inverse. We need to multiply by 2, and then divide by 5. For writing this all out, we now have our second mark. 30 multiplied by 2 is 60. 60 divided by 5 is 12. For saying that the height is 12 centimeters, we have our third mark. The diagram shows a cube with edges of length x centimeters and a sphere of radius 3 centimeters. The surface area of the cube is equal to the surface area of the sphere. Show that x is equal to the square root of k pi, where k is an integer. For step 1, I am going to work out the surface area of the sphere because we have all the dimensions needed for that. The formula I'm going to use is given over here. We need to do 4 pi multiplied by the radius squared. In this case, it's 3 squared. We get 4 pi multiplied by 9, which is 36 pi. We now have 1 mark. Step 2, we can try and work out the surface area of the cube. We know that a cube has faces made up of squares, so I'm first going to work out the area of one face. One face is one of these squares, and the area would be x multiplied by x. That is x squared. But in a cube there are 6 faces. For these 6 faces, we need 6 multiplied by x squared. We get 6x squared. We now have a second mark. For step 3, we're going to use the fact that it says both surface areas are equal. So we can say 6x squared is equal to 36 pi. We now have a third mark. To solve this, instead of 6x squared, we want 1x squared, so we need to divide by 6. That gives us x squared is equal to 6 pi. Now we do not want x squared, we just want x, so we need to square root both sides, and we get x is equal to the square root of 6 pi. For having all of this method and then ending with x equals square root 6 pi, where k is equal to 6, we have our fourth mark. Freddie measured the length of a pencil as 7.2 centimeters, correct to 1 decimal place. Complete the error interval for the length p centimeters of the pencil. The smallest 1 decimal number is 0.1. We need to divide that by 2 and we get 0.05. For the upper bound, we need to do 7.2 add 0.05 and we get 7.25. For writing this over here, we now have 1 mark. The lower bound is 7.2 subtract 0.05 and we get 7.15. And for writing that over here, we now have our second mark. The equation of a straight line is y equals 3 subtract 4x. Part 1, write down the gradient. Part 2, write down the coordinates of the point where L crosses the y-axis. To work this out, we first need to remember that the equation of a line should be in the form y equals mx plus c, where m is the gradient and the plus c is the y-intercept. If I rearrange the equation given, we end up with y equals negative 4x, add 3. That means the gradient is negative 4, and that gets us 1 mark. The coordinate would be 0, 3. When a point lies on the y-axis, the x-coordinate is 0. And for writing this, we have another mark. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day.